Hi, my name's Tammy, and this is my booktube channel, Believe in Yourself. And today I have a follow-up video to a video I posted in March. In March, I posted Reading Like Lee Child and showed 5 of his favorite books and gave a quote that he had said about each book. So if you're interested in what he said about these books, go ahead and go watch that video. I will link that down below. But for today, I do have a wrap up on the 5 books. The first one, we're going to start out with The Disappointment. It was a DNF, and it is Postmortem by a Case Scarpetta thriller by Patricia Cornwell. That's what the cover looks like. And I have to say, I used to love really intense thrillers, and I didn't mind graphic details too much. It didn't bother me. I read a lot of true crime, and I just can't do it anymore for some reason. I don't know. But I have to read a little bit less details, and this one had too many details for me. And so I just went ahead and DNF'd it because I wasn't enjoying it. And it's my disappointment of the month. I can see why she is a favorite author because she's a very good writer and she's very descriptive, and I like her pacing is good. So I can see why people really love this book and this series and her writing, but it just wasn't for me. The next book was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And this one just surprised me that this is a favorite of Lee Child's. I just would have never imagined that. But this follows, I'm sure you've all read this or heard of it, but it follows 2 siblings, Scout and Jem, and their father, Atticus Finch. Their last name is Finch. And this covers several years, but it mainly talks about the summers and a little bit into the school year. And the first portion of the book is mostly about Scout and Jem, and they have a friend that comes back every summer that lives next door. And they spend their summers playing as kids do, but there's a guy named Boo Radley that lives right near them that they've heard all sorts of stories and tall tales about him. And so they spend their summers really pestering him and trying to trick him into coming outside because they want to see what he looks like. And the second half, their father, Atticus, is defending a person of color that is accused of a terrible crime that he didn't commit, but he's up against his accuser, which is a white guy who's a really awful guy. And, the time it was set in, you can tell, how that's going to go with the trial and everything. But I think this book to me is about protecting the innocent. I know a lot of people say it's about racial injustice. I agree with that. And prejudices of all types, and I agree with that too. But I think it's about protecting the innocent. Their father, Scout and Jem's father, really gets after these kids because they pester Boo Radley. And he says, hey, he's not bothering you. He's staying in his house. He doesn't want to come out. Leave him alone. And he really tries to protect Boo from his kids. And then, of course, in the second half, he's trying to protect his client and defend his client. And it's kind of a coming-of-age story. Scout and Jem really grow up in this book over the course of a few years. And I just really like it. This is one of my favorite books. And there is a movie of it also. So if you haven't watched the movie or read the book, I really suggest both of them because they're both very good. Then we have The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. And this was a copy that one of my daughters bought for me. And I really like it. It's an old copy from the 1950s, I believe. And I'm not going to talk much about this because I know everybody knows all about this. But just briefly, it's about the Joad family. And they live during the Depression. I believe they're in Oklahoma. They live in the Dust Bowl. They're trying to survive in the world, and their farm is no longer producing anything and they're unable to live. So they decide they're going to go to California, the land where everybody is plucking grapes off of the trees and eating them, and everybody has a place to stay and has a job and has money. And so they decide they're going to go there. And this book to me is about family. I think most of all, family loyalty. This family sticks together through thick and thin. They're always trying to help each other out, caring about every member of their family. And they also meet several people along the way that they try and help out and take care of also. So even though it's a sad book and it's kind of a depressing book, I will admit, it's also very hopeful to me because it's a reminder that there are still good people in the world and families can look out for each other and take care of each other and help out other people. And this is one of my top 2 favorite books ever. And so I love rereading this. Okay, 2 more books here. I've got The President is Missing by James Patterson and Bill Clinton. That's the cover. And I have to say, I love this book. This is a reread for me. It's been a couple of years since I've read it, and I had forgotten a lot of the details, so this was a lot of fun. This is a page turner. It's a big book. It's, close to 600 pages. But I read this in 2 days because I couldn't put it down. This is such a good book. This follows our president. There's people trying to destroy the United States, which I'm sure is going on with every presidency. But this president is doing his best to protect the United States, and he's a good man, which I really liked about him. I think some of our current and past presidents maybe could have looked toward him to see a good example to follow. But anyway, he does have a grown daughter, and she plays a small part in this book, but it is fast-paced. There are car chases and intense scenes and just all sorts of stuff. There's not any graphic gore or anything like that, but it's really fast-paced, very filled with action, and I absolutely love this. The president does disappear a couple of days into the book. Nobody knows where he is except a very select few. Even his vice president doesn't know where he is. And he has gone somewhere, and he is doing what he can to protect the United States. And I just love this book. This is a favorite book also of mine. And I'm not surprised Lee Child likes this one. And then the last book I'm kind of surprised about just because it's such an older science fiction one. I think it was published in the 50s. And it's called The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham. That's a picture of the cover. Now, this book, I know I talked quite a bit about in my my introduction video, but there's 2 things going on in the world simultaneously. There was a huge meteor shower, and everybody who saw the meteor shower ends up going blind. Now, there are some people who were in the hospital or maybe sleeping or for whatever reason didn't see this meteor shower, and they are not blind. But I would say, 80-90% of the population has gone blind. So they have that going. And at the same time, there are these plants. They were, I don't know what the word is, I think it's bioengineered, but they were made by the Russians, and somehow, long story, they've gotten clear all over the planet. And these plants are killer plants. They can actually kind of pick up their roots and move, and they have these tentacles. If they sting you, then you'll end up dead, and they're semi-carnivorous. And the plants are kind of under control before this meteor shower because people can see where they are and can keep on top of them and everything. But once most of the world goes blind, these plants get out of control. So now they have 2 huge problems. And our main character is named Bill. He does meet a woman, really at the beginning of the book, maybe in chapter 2 or something like that, so it's not a spoiler. But these two here are trying to figure out how to survive in this world. Of course, when something happens like this in any book, there's kind of those gangs and groups and everybody trying to be the ones in control. And so they have that going against them also. And it's really actually kind of a hopeful book. It's not a sad book and it's not a scary book. I didn't think so anyway, but it is hopeful because they have not lost everything. They still have technology. They still, a lot of them can still see, but most everybody can't. But they have to figure out how they're going to handle living, handle how will they take care of the blind people, or should they even take care of the blind people? Should they take care of themselves? They're trying to stay alive from these kind of gangs and groups that have formed. They've got these Triffids running all over the place killing people, so it's a pretty fast moving book. And one of my subscriber friends told me that there's actually a sequel, and it's called The Night of the Triffids. It's written by a different author. I will list that down below so you can look that up if you're interested. And now it's a sequel. Sequels sometimes aren't the best books, and especially if they're written by another author, who knows if it's going to be a good book. But I did look up the reviews, and a lot of people really like it. So I'm going to be on the lookout for The Night of the Triffids because I really did love this book. So that's my wrap up on the 5 books that I read that Lee Child loved. And I did have a fun time with the stack of books. So until next time, have a great day.